Hello everyone! Today I'm going to be talking about the CSS Box model. So in CSS the term box model is used when we talk about the design and the layout of the website. So essentially the box model is the box that wraps around every HTML element, and it consists of content, padding, borders and margins. I'm gonna give you an example. So let's create an H1 heading and box model demonstration. Alright, I'm gonna open this. There we go, and you can go ahead and right click, inspect, and from here we can search for this element from this elements list, or we can select it with this tool by clicking this icon right over here. So like that, and it will find the element for us automatically. So we can go to the computed style, and over here this is the box model in CSS. So first of all we have the content right over here, then we have the padding, and we currently don't have any. Then we have a border, but we don't have currently a border. And then there is the margin. And by default, the H1 element has a little bit of margin on the top and bottom. So this is the CSS box model. So yeah, the box model allows us to add a border around elements and to define space between elements. I'm going to give you guys an example. So for example, let's make a div element right over here. And I'm gonna type in that this text is the content of the box, and we have 30 pixels of padding, we have 20 pixels of margin, and a 15 pixel wide border. Alright, I'm gonna go and open this again. Here we go, and then right click and inspect. Let's use this tool. Let's find this div element. And now when we go to the computed tab and take a look at the box model, we can see the things. Actually, we didn't even add them. Sorry, I forgot about that. So let's open the style. The style folder or style file that is linked to our index.html file, and let's select the div element. I'm gonna give it a background color of pink. I'm gonna make it a width of 300 pixels. I'm gonna add a border of 15 pixels solid light green. Alright, I'm gonna add padding of 30 pixels and margin of 20 pixels. There we go. Now when I go over here and open DevTools and go to the Computed tab, it's gonna show me the content itself. So the text is the content. Then it will show me the padding, the border, and the margin. So yeah, that's a simple demonstration of the box model in CSS. Now, when we set a width or a height to an element, in order to set the width and height correctly in all browsers, we need to know how the box model works. So when we set the width and height properties of an element with CSS, we set the width and height of the content area only. So to calculate the total width and height of an element, we also gotta include the padding and the borders. So yeah, we don't have to include margin necessarily because that is space outside of an element, but basically you could include that as well. So the width of this element is not 300 pixels, but it's actually 30 plus 20, which is 50, and plus 15, which is going to be 65. So the real width would be 365 pixels if we include the margin around the element. So yeah, otherwise it would be 345 with adding the border width and the padding. I'm gonna give you another example. Let's go to our HTML file. We can delete this line of text. And then let's go ahead and add an image. So we are going to type in image. The source, at least for me, it's going to be the images folder. So images slash flower.jpg. Alright, then the width is going to be 350, and that's in pixels. Actually, I'm gonna make it, let's say 150 or 200. Alright, the height, we don't have to set it necessarily, but the alternative text is good to have. So a picture of flowers. So once again, in case the image doesn't load, we will at least be shown the alternative text. Then I'm gonna go ahead and create a div element, and I'm gonna remove the previous styles except for the background color, or actually I can remove that as well. So inside of this div, we'll say that the picture is 200 pixels wide, and we want this element to be the same width. Okay, so we can go inside of here and say width colon 200 pixels and add a border of 2 pixels solid black. Now that seems to work. However, if we add in padding of 10 pixels to every direction, you can already see that the result has changed. Also, if we go ahead and add a border, for example, that is going to be 10 pixels in size, now this element is no longer 200 pixels wide. So we gotta calculate the padding and the border, and let's add margin as well, 10 pixels. So there we go. So we gotta calculate these in total. That's gonna be 30. So 200 minus 30 is gonna be 170. And now the element is going to be the same height as this picture, but there's the margin. I'm gonna remove that. So now you can see that it has the same width, except I made one little mistake. This needs to be updated. By the way, so yeah, this is exactly the issue with the box model. So we gotta calculate the width. Okay, 160. Now these two elements are the same width. So you gotta do some calculations with trial and error to get these working correctly. We can also set the margin to be 0, and that doesn't really change anything because the div element only has margin on the top and bottom, but yeah. Or actually, I can't remember. it didn't seem to change anything. Well, that's okay. Anyways, so that's the important thing to remember with the box model in CSS. So, in our example, the calculation would be something like this. So, 200 pixels is the content's width. Now we have 10 pixels of padding on the right and the left, also on the top and the bottom, but that doesn't matter at this example. 10 pixels of padding on the right and the left. And then we have 10 pixels of border on the right and left. So, yeah. So basically the total width of our element is going to be 220 pixels. Because 200 pixels plus 10 pixels plus 10 pixels equals 220. So I wrote some more info here. So the total element width is going to be the width, left padding, left border, right border, and the total element height is going to be the height, top padding, bottom padding, top border, and the bottom border. And we gotta keep in mind that the margin property also affects the total space that the box will take up on the page. So right now it already looks different when I added the margin of 20 pixels to all sides. So yeah, the margin is not included in the actual size of the box because the box's total width and height stop at the border, but the margin affects the box model anyways. So you gotta keep that in mind. Alright, that's gonna be it for this episode. I hope you learned something new. I hope I'm gonna see you in the next episode, and happy learning everyone. Bye bye.